You have an issue with poor people getting help. Because if student loan debt relief happens, all of a sudden, students that are just graduating have more economic freedom to be able to make better workplace decisions. Maybe they don't want to fucking clean the toilets at Starbucks all of a sudden. Maybe they want to do something else and they have a little bit more financial freedom because they're not trapped immediately in this fat fucking student loan debt relief, student loan that they need to pay for. So they take whatever first job that they are offered. Just like Nancy Pelosi had a fucking fat donor that quite literally was in the business of restructuring student loan debt. Oh my God. That's crazy. That's precisely the reason why that fucking decrepit old shell, okay, of a human being turned around and said, Joseph Biden doesn't have the power to fucking do the student loan debt relief. Remember when she said that? Oh yeah, the reason why she said that is because her fucking donors benefit from it. Let's talk about, will the U.S. Supreme Court strike down Biden's student debt plan?
And the burden of student debt is being lifted by President Biden, members of Congress who support it, and it is right. We ask the United States Supreme Court to believe in the certain inalienable rights.
So we can let an unelected body try to take away relief for our families that are struggling every single day, and the pandemic made it worse for them.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, student loan borrowers have had a moratorium on their payments. The pause on federal loans has lasted over 3 years, but now over 40 million Americans may be hit with a bill some borrowers have never even seen.
So for years, advocates and borrowers have been pressuring the government to act on student loan forgiveness, saying that the student loan system was broken. Outstanding student loan debt is marching towards $2 trillion. You have over 1 in 10 borrowers in delinquency or default, and a number of other issues with the lending system.
President Joe Biden fulfilled his campaign promise in August of 2022 to forgive $10,000 in student loan debt for tens of millions of borrowers.
That wasn't
He
his...
upped the relief to $20,000 for borrowers who received a Pell Grant in college.
That wasn't the only...
wondering what is going on
That
with
wasn't
President
it. That
Joe
wasn't
Biden's
the whole
student
thing, but...
loan forgiveness plan. Since he first rolled out the plan in August, at least 6 lawsuits have been brought against the plan, mostly by Republicans and conservative-backed groups. As those lawsuits made their way through the courts, the Supreme Court agreed to take on 2 of the cases and really examine if this was an act of presidential overreach.
Another criticism of Biden's sweeping debt relief plan is its impact on an already indebted economy.
I've been critical of student loan debt relief for the last 2 years, but the plan came in, frankly, much worse than I expected. And at this point in our economy, we really don't need to be adding 500.
Dude, no. This motherfucker, bro. Yo, get the fuck out of here, dude. Fucking absolute dog piece of shit. Oh my God. Why does he look like the kid who gets inflated in Willy Wonka? Because he is the kid that got inflated in Willy Wonka. I'm an economics professor at Harvard, and I think it's bad that we have student loan debt relief. It's like, we don't need that. We don't need to add to the deficit. Yeah, what about the fucking military, you fucking piece of shit? Fuck you.
$100 billion of deficit spending for a purpose that, frankly, includes wealthy law students and
every kind of universal social policy also impacts rich people. Okay? That is not a counter against it. I do not care. Shut the fuck up. You are a fucking piece of shit. Okay? Like, wealthy students, the real wealthy students, are not taking on fucking student loans anyway. They're paying it. And not only are they paying for their fucking college education, they're literally paying for the private wing of the library to be able to even get into Harvard. So shut the fuck up.
business school graduates getting tens of thousands of dollars.
So what the Supreme Court examined at the end of February...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if rich people get free health care. They're paying for it in taxes, okay? Shut the fuck up. I hate this argument. oh, rich people are going to, like, first of all, he's a rich person. His entire life is dedicated to, defending the needs of the wealthy as an econ professor at Harvard, okay? This is what he's doing. So that's number one. And it doesn't fucking matter. Universal policies will also end up helping rich people. Who cares? Rich people are technically supposed to be paying more in fucking taxes anyway. It's not the rich people getting benefits from this that you have a problem with. After all, 90% of your advocacy revolves around more subsidies than rich people. Helping the real producers of the economy, the productive class, the wealth owning class, the capital owning class. Those are the guys that need the subsidies. Those are the guys that need the tax breaks. Like, you don't have an issue with rich people getting help in this regard, okay? Because it's not real help for rich people. You have an issue with poor people getting help. Because if student loan debt relief happens, all of a sudden, students that are just graduating have more economic freedom to be able to make better workplace decisions. Maybe they don't want to fucking clean the toilets at Starbucks all of a sudden. Maybe they want to do something else and they have a little bit more financial freedom because they're not trapped immediately in this fat fucking student loan debt relief, student loan that they need to pay for. So they take whatever first job that they are offered. But of course, that would brick the economy. I don't like that because, people got to always clean the toilets. Somebody's got to do it.
Are two major things. One, have the plaintiffs here actually proven that they've been harmed by student loan forgiveness? In order to challenge a policy in the courts, you need to prove that a policy has caused you injury. It's called legal standing. Do you have legal standing? The Supreme Court justices considered if the plaintiffs had proven that they will be harmed by student loan forgiveness. The other point that the Supreme Court was considering at the end of February is the president acting within his rights in forgiving this amount of student?
There's no standing, and even if there is, I don't give a fuck about the standing potentially. One, the president absolutely does have the power to do that. That's why he did it. Shut the fuck up.
Student debt. While the Biden administration points to the HEROES Act as justification, the plaintiffs say that law allows for much more tailored relief than the type of sweeping debt cancellation the president is trying to carry out.
Advocating for affordable, free higher education would have been the most uncontroversial thing prior to Reagan. This vitriolic view of the poor is quite new. I mean, I think America has always had disdain for the poor. It's just that when they very openly married poor with black, that's when, and I think Reagan certainly accelerated that. Nixon, Reagan, that's when it became overdrive.
Borrowers camped outside the Supreme Court the night before the hearings to show their support for Biden's plan.
So by the morning, there were hundreds of borrowers outside the Supreme Court. One borrower that I spoke to said that whether or not his student debt is canceled and whether or not he has a monthly student loan bill will determine whether or not he's able to help his parents, who've retired with not enough money, be able to afford their groceries and their gas bills. Another borrower told me that student loan debt will determine whether or not she'll be able to ever save up for a down payment on a house. And the stories do get more severe. There are borrowers who said that the monthly student loan bill, it's either that or their medicine. So going into the Supreme Court arguments, most of the legal experts and professors that I spoke to.
That Jason Furman professor is a G30 member. I guarantee his portfolio has a ton of investment in brokerages that acquire and profit off of student debt. Yeah, just like Nancy Pelosi had a fucking fat donor that quite literally was in the business of restructuring student loan debt. Oh my God. That's crazy. That's precisely the reason why that fucking decrepit old shell, okay, of a human being turned around and said, Joseph Biden doesn't have the power to fucking do the student loan debt relief. Remember when she said that? Oh yeah, the reason why she said that is because her fucking donors benefit from it. God damn it.
Spoke to said that they thought Biden's student loan forgiveness plan would face really tough odds at the Supreme Court, considering the conservative majority. But after the arguments, a lot of them changed their tunes, which was really interesting. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar They said that she made a really convincing case for why the president did have the power to forgive student debt, pointing out that although there's been no precedent for this type of relief, there's also been very little precedent, at least in 100 years, for this type of public health crisis that was the coronavirus pandemic. She really made it seem like the plaintiffs had more political issues with the plan than that they could prove that they would actually be harmed by the policy.
Experts now believe it will be an uphill battle to convince the 6 conservative justices to side with the 3 liberals on the bench.
Although the Supreme Court arguments occur just over one day, the justices can take months to reach a decision. Experts that I spoke to said that by the end of the term, they should make their ruling, so that'll be sometime in June or July.
Companies like SoFi have come out in opposition to the White House plan.
If the student loan moratorium ends, there will be a pickup in student loan refinancing, but we're not counting on it. We have a diverse business, and the thing that gates our growth is how much we invest and where we invest. If that business comes back, we'll allocate resources to it to capture the opportunity and meet our members' needs.
Borrowers hope the decision happens soon, since the Biden administration has said payments will resume at the end of August if litigation isn't resolved.
If the Supreme Court strikes down Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, you're going to have tens of millions of Americans who now have to figure out how to make room in their monthly budget for a student loan bill they haven't had to pay in over 3 years. The Education Department is sounding the alarms that delinquency rates and default rates could skyrocket after borrowers have gotten used to, for years, not making a student loan payment.
And to be clear, our college financing system is broken. It has a lot of problems.
Why is this the guy speaking? I mean, it's CNBC. Like how? Why is it Jason fucking Furman talking about student loan debt relief? Like, and how bad it is. That's most of the arguments are coming from the guy who very openly says, I think this is disastrous. It's because he was a former director of the National Economic Council of the United States. I don't give a fuck what he's the former director of. He can suck my fucking cock, okay? Bullshit. Put a fucking opposing argument there. You couldn't find a single person who's like advocating for, Fat Rick Perry is right. He does look like fucking, Rick Perry looks like the Ozempic version of this man, okay? I hate neoliberals so much. Yeah, he's the director of Sucking My Cock. That's what he's directing. Directing my cock in his mouth. Fucking asshole, dude.
Problems, but doing this type of step is just a way of encouraging more reliance on debt in the future, increasing the likelihood that we end up back in further problems.
So there's a lot of research that shows that federal student debt makes it much harder for Americans to come up with a down payment to buy a house, to save for their retirement, to buy stocks, and to start small businesses. So you would see a lot of those impacts likely pick up again once Americans have a new student loan bill due.
If the decision is unfavorable for borrowers, there are a few ways to prepare for payments to resume.
So what you can do to prepare is to start saving. Put money aside in a savings account so that when those student loan bills resume, it's a little bit less of a shock to you. You have some money saved aside and you're prepared. It's also a good idea for borrowers to get familiarized with their options when payments resume. If you are struggling, there are a number of...
Dude, are you suffering from student loans? Are you underwater from the tremendous amount of student loans that you may never actually end up paying that will transfer over to your children inevitably? Well, guess what? Here's a really good solution. Be born into a wealthy family that didn't do that. Yeah. The worst part is people don't get mad at this. Like, there are motherfuckers even in this chat that don't get mad at this, like, spitting in your fucking face that they are engaging in. And instead get whipped up into a frenzy about the supposed hypocrisy of like, oh, it's actually just like rich, gay Marxist, gender theory learning people that want this. And it's not like the average American citizen has a tremendous amount of fucking student loans. How do you not get mad at this?
Ways that you can keep your payments on pause. Those are through forbearances for people who are unemployed or experiencing an economic hardship.